I'm Carolyn Holzman, and this is Confessions of an SEO. I'd like to thank Ahrefs for being the sponsor of today's show. Confessions is a short-form, one-way chat about anything and everything in SEO. Expect plain talk, no engineering mumbo-jumbo, and for our time together to be around 15 minutes. Sometimes I get on a soapbox and preach. Today is that kind of day. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 23 of Confessions of an SEO, and the first of the limited 2025 Mountain Edition of Confessions. Don't feel sorry for me. It's just too damn hot in Texas, and living in a tiny house in the woods in the mountains is a lot cooler in several ways. Last week's show was a reasoned rant for what direction we're headed for when Google is using AI answers for questions of their customers and getting that information from our sites, but not sending them to our websites for traffic. So, where we get a chance at the consumer, a bite, I guess, at the consumer apple. If you haven't heard it yet, you can find it on confessionsofanseo.com. This episode is sponsored by Ahrefs. Ahrefs Site Explorer tool remains one of my favorite aspects of their software. Last week I said it's the cornerstone of my forensic work, especially when I can find out what a competitor's top performing pages are. And you can do that with Ahrefs. It just takes 3 steps. You input a competitor's website, you see their top performing pages, and then you can find the search phrases that are driving traffic to those top pages and compare your top page to their top page to try and identify any kind of content gaps. So you still need your SEO brain, but in the process of reverse engineering, this tool does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So what's not to love? So this past week, there was a huge uproar within a certain segment of the SEO community. And it had to do with Cyrus Shepard's dissection of, there was a wave of what we know in the industry as reputation management style content posting by one Neil Patel for something that had happened 11 years ago. And yeah, I'm talking about that Neil Patel. It's worth the read. In a nutshell, Cyrus started to see this new content being pushed out, and he was curious, why talk about something that happened so long ago, and decided to kind of do a little detective work and hit pay dirt, literally. Patel and his companies are facing a lawsuit from the bankrupt FTX. Yeah, that's the crypto guys. So we've got cryptocurrency investments in this. And the lawyers are seeking to recover over $30 million in payments made to Patel's companies between 2021 and 22. Now, the claims, as I understand them, is that FTX alleges that the work that was provided by his company was sloppy and considered, quote, terrible performance, unquote. And the fees they charged were well above market prices for SEO and ad work. There are some details in the legal filing that do kind of give you a little bit more of additional content. I should say context. The poor performance. FTX claims they can't find any deliverables for the $2.7 million payment to promote a project. When it comes to excessive fees, they say they were charged $6 million per year for SEO and ad work, while Neil's company was charging other clients significantly less for the same type of work. They say they were unjust payments. There's a $14.8 million payment for, quote, attempting to find another SEO consultant, quote. And that is also being challenged because FTX claims no consultant was ever found. Now, on the balance, Neil Patel's response was he's acknowledged the lawsuit, but has indicated he doesn't agree with what they're alleging and believes he was a victim of circumstance. As they say, the lawsuit is ongoing and the situation still developing. Boy, is it ever. You can read about it on your own, but here's a few things I think that our industry could really do better. This is way more than Neil Patel, although I get it. It does feel somewhat personal when it's his name thrown around. But there are lots of people out there that absolutely love and respect and do everything that Neil Patel has put online over the years. Some people think that this may basically be a hit job by Cyrus, but we have to wonder, don't we, as thinking professionals, where is the line between gossip and scrutiny? Can you provide some scrutiny without it being viewed as jealousy or gossip? Now, the post on LinkedIn pulled in comments in response to what Cyrus published. Specifically, people who had negative experiences with Neil felt because Cyrus took a chance to speak out and share what he found, that it made it easier for them to have a moment to share what happened to them. Things started to read like it was, we're having some sort of SEO Me Too movement. And one commenter posted, and I quote, "I haven't spoken of this publicly for years because his reputation was such I was scared to come out with it," unquote. Now, I know a lot of women kind of understand where this concern comes from, but clearly everybody can feel it in the right circumstance. And I think we're looking perhaps at the power of being first in market. I think for many years, especially people who are starting out in SEO, that they have found Neil's SEO advice a great way to get started. Now, the unofficial power that's installed into someone who, by all accounts, is shrewd, likable, and not afraid to make a few bucks. But this unofficial power granted to him is staggering. To anyone, it would be staggering. And as Cyrus himself is answering challenges to his own motivation in writing about this, he agrees that Neil is smart and successful, however, says, quote, "I believe his questionable actions over the years deserve scrutiny," unquote. There's a post from another forensic SEO that was put up. Alan Blywise was classic, what he wrote. And it kind of took me to where I feel the real challenge lies. And I'm going to quote him because what he said was powerful, and paraphrasing might not sort of translate the same kind of energy. So here we go. Quote, "Listen carefully. Some industry rock stars are outright bottom of the barrel bullshitters. If you respect Neil Patel, if you admire him, if you trust him, you are being conned. Now more than ever, this industry cannot allow such unethical people to pollute our industry. We need to step up and refuse to allow their narratives to win. Cyrus Shepard is doing that. He deserves our appreciation and amplification," end quote. So I got a few questions. And I'm thinking, what other industry had the power to proselytize to just the general businesses to get websites made so that Google could become what it has become? And now that we have sort of set up this little matrix deal, I think now we kind of realize that we might have created a monster. And I guess as comes out of my mouth, I realize this is not really a question. It's more editorial. But there's a real question in here. What other industry does not have ethical guidelines and at least attempt to hold its members to some sort of standard, just to protect the businesses they serve? Have you ever read a BBB report on a business? There's one on Neil's, and it's called, this is the name of the LLC, "I'm Kind of a Big Deal." If you're a Ron Burgundy movie fan like me, it's actually pretty funny, but the name is. But the complaints are there. And as some call it, there's at least a little smoke. So I guess when you're a celebrity, they just let you do whatever you want. And let's be clear, Neil is not the only person in the SEO industry with this kind of reputation. There were others whose reputations and personalities are so out there that scrutiny of any of their practices, especially with less than successful customer experience, shall we say, in contrast to those reputations, like there's something that doesn't quite match, there's nothing out there. Those that speak out will say privately that they feel like they're risking some offense, like if they were to do so. But I ask, offense to whom? You know who really suffers? Well, I think first the business, right? I guess there may be some psychic cashback, when you can say so-and-so does my SEO. But the rest of us, the ones that get an opportunity to step into the breach, or I should say step into that betrayal of trust zone with many businesses, instead of putting their frustrations into a BBB report about their previous SEO company, they take it out on the next SEO company. Now, when it comes to FTX lawsuit, I think it might be worthwhile if you could find or watch the series Ozark, because I think Ozark says it best. You can find it, I think, on Netflix. But when it comes to alleging someone involved invoiced $18 million as a service that failed to secure a third-party SEO consultant that the money was supposedly paid for them to find, that kind of seems preposterous. But is it? I'm kind of glad it's out in the open, because obviously if there's nothing to this, it will go away. But you know what won't? The black eye SEO as an industry will receive from this. There are readers who don't know that techniques in SEO have had to change over the years. And just because you're working with a known entity based on them being practically the first in market, the most overwhelming presence in search results when you're looking for anything about, SEO or certain aspects of SEO, while that may be valuable in other industries, unfortunately, it doesn't really mean a thing in the world of SEO. The field we work in is so volatile that unless you're up to date with what's working right now, your skills expire. The number of years you've been in SEO does not protect anyone from that reality. Now, let me be clear. People are free to do whatever they want in the manner they want to and charge whatever they choose to. But when you are out in front, when you are sort of like benefiting from being the first in market and everything, it does not grant anyone license to be free from scrutiny when questionable things come to light. When it comes to protecting our industry from scammers and comment, I think we can all do more. Why should we be scared to say what happened, no matter what the other person's reputation is perceived to be? I agree. It takes courage to speak out, not just in SEO, in all walks of life. Personally, I have learned to practice what is like a three-prong operational definition of honesty. I'll run it past you to see if you like it. First, is whatever happened, does it need to be said? And secondly, was it said to the person who it needed to be said to? And finally, was it said at the time it needs to be said? So it's a what, a who, and a timing thing. Not everybody will like you if you do this, I'm telling you. But at least you may sleep at night a little better knowing that by sharing your experience and having the courage for a narrative that is perhaps a fuller, more complete version, in the future, someone else might have enough information to be able to choose not to play that game. Well, that's it for me this week. Thank you for being a listener. If you have questions about today's topic, you can reach out and text your question to confessions at 512-222-3132. Thank you again to Ahrefs for being the sponsor of this episode. Check out the link in the description and start using that Site Explorer for competitive research. If you got pages disappearing in Search Console issues and you need to get a fresh take on why things are happening as they are or not happening as they should, reach out to me either on Facebook or LinkedIn. My indexing platform is called Indexilla. To get content and backlinks into Google and Bing, you can find it at indexilla.io. And last but not least, my indexation research project, Crawl or No Crawl on Substack, is going to complete 4 years this summer, and I will tell you which day it is when it happens. As a sustaining member at $18 a month, you'll receive daily status reports to answer the question, is it me or is indexing off today? You can find that if you search Crawl or No Crawl. Thanks for listening, and until next week, I'll see you in the SERPs.